Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. It is 5:45 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, October 2nd, 2011. And this is your Global Earthquake and Volcano Overview. And now what I've got turned on here is the ANSS feed. So what we're seeing is no earthquake has occurred in the last 14 days except for one. And we can look at the statistics on this in a minute. But what this shows to me is a noticeable downtick in large earthquakes. 2 weeks ago, we were seeing a 6.0 every day to day and a half. Some even 2 and 3 per day. Now that has since died down over the last couple weeks, and to me that's a good sign. Now what I'll do is I'll show you the greater than 5.0 earthquakes here. Okay, there we go. And then you can still see the pattern of movement that's occurring around the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now the area that's going off is from basically Indochina all the way down to New Zealand. And then it branches up into Japan and right up into Alaska. Now all these other areas I believe are playing catch up to this area right here. This is the area where we're seeing a lot of large movement. 5.0, 6.0, 7.0 earthquakes over the past few months. Japan, of course, had the 9.0, but you have to look before Japan, we were still seeing a large amount of movement down here to the south, the southwestern tip and the southwestern edge of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now that spills to the west, it goes right up through India, through the Middle East, and into southern Europe, and it goes across Alaska and down the eastern side of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now there's been a noticeable lack of 6.0s that have occurred from Washington State down to Baja California. About a month and a half, 2 months ago, we saw a 6.0 in Baja California, and then we saw another 6.0 roughly up here near Vancouver Island. But the U.S. has been noticeably absent of these large quakes. Now if we just take it down a little bit more to 4.0s, you can see the movement on the eastern side of the Pacific Ring of Fire. And that's, again, I believe, playing catch up to this portion of the plate here that is moving tremendously. So I would say in the United States, from Vancouver Island south to Baja California is an area we need to watch for a 5.0 or greater earthquake threat watch over the next few weeks. You see the 4.4 that occurred here in Nevada. I urge you to go look up the coordinates for the 4.4 and look on Google Earth and see what is right there. It's a giant bunker facility for storing underground weapons for the U.S. Army. Go look that up. It's really interesting. Now let me turn it down just a little bit more to 3.0s, and you can see the earthquake that occurred along the New Madrid seismic zone in the middle of the plate. Now this plate, let me just turn it down all the way and you'll really be able to see it, curves. It starts up here in the Pacific Northwest and makes a curl down through Texas and then back up through southern Canada. And that's called the craton. I've mentioned it several times. I'll put a link down below where you can go look up more about the craton. But what's happening is the craton's being pushed from the west from the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now, this push has died down over the past few weeks now, to the point where I don't know if it's just a complete downtick or if it's the buildup for a large earthquake. I hope that it's a downtick, a noticeable downtick in large earthquakes, which means that the movement is lessening, which means that on this side of the plate, on the eastern side, we're going to see less activity, not more. Now that's a hope of mine. It's based upon the last 2 weeks of earthquakes on the eastern side of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now you see up here in Canada there was a 5.3 and a 4.8 in Alaska. This is corresponding to the movement to the west, the large movement on the western Pacific. Now let's jump over and look at a few charts really quick. This will tell the tale in the United States. Let's see, I think I got it here, Yellowstone. Now this is Yellowstone over the last 24 hours. You can see the movement that's occurring at Madison River. And if we go back a day, Madison River being this chart here, go back a day, and you can again see the movement at Madison River, and the corresponding movement down near the lake and up near Soda Butte. But I want to take you back one more day, I think. Here we go. Norris Junction. Norris Junction was showing a large amount of movement for 2 to 3 days straight. And the way you can tell that is we can just keep going back. Okay, Norris Junction again, showing a large amount of movement. Let me just close that out and take it back another day. Okay, a whole day of movement with even heavy earthquake activity. Now this is underground harmonics. This would be literally movement of magma or actual plate movement underneath the area. So they were saying the area was bulging and that there was a large swelling in the area last year. So this might be further swelling, this might be further movement, but we're going to take it back until the day that it started. Okay, I just have to keep going back here. There we go. So on September 23rd is when the actual increase started, and it went through, and it's still going through till I think yesterday afternoon. Okay? So this says, this to me does not say large eruption, this says movement placed upon the craton, of which the edge of the craton goes right up through Wyoming and through Idaho up into Canada. So we're going to have to watch these areas for 5.0 and greater earthquakes just because of the other movement that's going on along the entire boundary. Now you can see in South America, right up through Central America, over through Puerto Rico and out to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the pressure is being transferred, of course, and you get a large amount to the west, a semi-middle amount in the middle, and then a little bit on the east. And that's happening all the way across here. So you can just see this pressure that's building from the west. And then to the, of course, to the east, coming off of Asia, and then back to the west over to Europe. So anywhere in these areas, if you live in Poland, if you live in Germany, if you live in France, all the way down to Spain and Portugal, right along Gibraltar, and through the Middle East, right through the Mediterranean Sea. It's a large area to watch, but all this area here is due for large earthquake activity greater than 5.0 in the next few weeks. And the way I see that is, let's go look at the European Agency. Okay, here's one of their maps that shows it, but there's a better map that'll show us the last 48 hours. Okay, and we'll zoom in on Europe, and this tells the tale. So the activity down here near Gibraltar, right up through, if we're to draw a line from Gibraltar right up through Poland, this area in here is the area you'll want to watch for that 4 to 5.0 earthquake threat watch, right up through the Netherlands that had that 4.0. Further south, you're looking at, of course, southern Italy. You have a lot of volcanic activity. Same with Greece and all these islands in here. Most of this is that volcano uptick related. Now, I haven't even really touched on volcanoes recently. I'm going to urge you guys to go over and check out Scott from Believers Underground. He's been touching on post-glacial rebound effect and the volcanic activity that's associated with that. And he believes, and I believe as well, that all this earthquake activity is really related to the literally bending of the Earth's crust due to the post-glacial rebound effect. I'll post some stuff down below. You can go read about post-glacial rebound effect. It's very interesting. Okay, so if you live Poland, France, Germany, Netherlands, and then south, basically Croatia, west to Italy, and then of course south into Greece. So that's a large area to watch. Wish we could nail it down more than that, but literally on a daily basis, you're seeing now 3.0s, 2.0s. Okay, Spain 3.7, France 3.0, Poland 3.5, last 48 hours. Follow that line, that's the area you want to watch. Okay, now let's go back to Earthquake 3D, and I'm going to turn on a different feed. We'll turn on the NEIC for the last 7 days. Okay, and here we go. And this is over the last 7 days. So of course, Alaska, south through Japan, down through Indonesia, all the way south to New Zealand. This is the area you want to watch for additional 6.0 and greater earthquakes. It's been 2 weeks since we've had one. We definitely are scheduled and due for one. The USGS even says every 3 to 5 days a 6.0 should happen. That's based upon past statistics. So watch these areas here, 6.0 and greater. I would say New Zealand is the most recent activity. Look down here in New Zealand, south of New Zealand 5.6, midway you got a 5.1, up north you got a 4.8. So right in here, would be I think Vanuatu up to the north, and New Zealand, Auckland down to the south, the Auckland Islands, right through here, 6.0 and greater, 2 weeks from now or less. As we get over to Indonesia, you're again looking at Indonesia all the way over to India as being an area you want to watch, again, for 6.0 and greater within the next 2 weeks. Japan, well, you're looking at an entire area now. Let me turn these rings down so you can get a better idea. We're seeing movement now in Japan, let me just back this out a little bit, all throughout the northern peninsula. It was located right off of Honshu before. Now we're seeing a large amount of compensation movement. I think that we saw a large amount of movement at once in one spot. Now the other areas, like I said at the beginning of the video, are playing catch up. They're literally having to compensate for that movement. And globally that's happening on the eastern side based upon what's happening here on the western side. Now you see this cluster right here. This cluster is the area I'm talking about watching for a 6.0 and greater, just north of Australia. As we get into Russia and China, you're seeing 5.0s, only one over the last 7 days. However, I would say that you'd have to watch in this area again. We even saw, I think, a 7.8 about 2 or 3 months ago in this area, so it's an area you're going to want to watch for further movement. Africa, noticeably silent lately. So Gulf of Aden region, right down south through the volcanic areas down here, down to the south of Africa. So if you live in an earthquake-prone area, Puerto Rico, you're seeing areas, well, let's zoom in and show you. Okay, here's Puerto Rico. Now the Dominican Republic and Haiti were the recipients of the large devastating earthquake, I think almost 2 years ago now, and since then the area to the east is showing a tremendous amount of activity, and it's of course to the north and east of the island on a approximately 20,000 foot drop off there. So we're going to want to watch that area for earthquakes, because if a large earthquake happens, that's a lot of water, a lot of area for possible movement, which could cause a tsunami. It could cause a giant wave displacement. You're going to want to watch for additional earthquakes. Now, United States, edge of the craton. So that, let me name the states: Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, southern Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and right up through the New England states. And I won't name all those, but it goes right up into southern Canada near Nova Scotia and Ontario, Quebec border. South America, you're looking at, well, basically from Colombia north through Central America into southern Mexico. And then you follow the ridge over to Puerto Rico, and that's your defining edge for earthquake threat watch. And again, we're looking at 5.0 and greater on this side. As we get further south, you're looking at 6.0 and greater, and that would be off the ocean on the Andes mountain range, maybe as far north as Peru, as far south as southern Chile. Mid-Atlantic Ridge, further 5.0s into the future as long as the rest of this activity continues. All right, so hang in there, folks. Much love. If you have any questions, just go ahead and send me a personal message, and I'll put a bunch of links down below that you can go monitor the situation for yourself in your area. Cheers, folks.